start today just by taking a slow, deep breath together.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea.
Because life can so often feel just incredibly overwhelming. I was thinking about this recently. When you're just trying to keep your head above water, it's really hard.
It's exhausting.
It is when every single day feels like you're treading water in the middle of this vast, dark, endless ocean. It's so hard to look around and find any sense of clear purpose.
Right, because you're really just trying to survive until tomorrow.
Exactly. And when you are locked in that pure survival mode, the big questions like, why am I here, or does any of my daily struggle actually matter? They can feel like heavy weights pulling you under.
Yeah, rather than life rafts keeping you afloat. And that is such a real, deeply human place to be.
It really is.
And if the person listening to us right now, if you are feeling that specific kind of exhaustion, that bone-deep weight of just trying to make it through another week, we really want you to know that we see you.
We do.
We are going to intentionally slow things down today.
Yeah.
We're going to explore some profound ideas, but we're going to do it very gently.
Our mission for today's deep dive is to explore a really fascinating conversation we found from the show The Diary of a CEO. It features a guest named Huff, and he presents this incredibly thought-provoking perspective on the Christian worldview, the nature of science, and, well, our ultimate search for meaning.
It's a big topic.
It's massive. We are going to be unpacking some really heavy questions today. We're talking about human origins, the fundamental reason we exist, and even those intimidating concepts of heaven and hell.
And we should be very clear right at the outset here. Our goal today is not to debate theology.
Right.
And we are certainly not here to tell you what you must believe. We are simply taking the specific framework presented by Huff and holding it up to the light.
Just taking a look at it.
Exactly. Regardless of your personal background, your faith, or your doubts, if you are out there searching for your why, this material offers a truly unique, comforting lens.
Yeah, it provides a way of looking at your own worth that completely steps off that exhausting modern treadmill of constant productivity.
I love that. Yep.
So, okay, let's unpack this. Because before we can even begin to understand our personal purpose, our individual why that we're all searching for, the source suggests we have to step all the way back.
Way back.
Yeah, we have to look at how we view the world itself. And specifically, how we try to bridge this massive, sometimes painful gap between cold, hard scientific facts and the deeper emotional meaning of our lives.
Right, and often people feel like they have to choose. Society tells us it's a battle. Faith stands on one side of the ring and science stands on the other.
Like they're enemies.
Exactly, but Huff makes a very compelling point right out of the gate. He argues there is no inherent conflict between an incredibly old Earth and the Bible.
Wait, really? Because I feel like that's usually the biggest sticking point for people.
It is, yeah. But he fully accepts the scientific consensus. He acknowledges that the Earth is roughly 4.5 billion years old, and that, single-celled organisms appeared 3.5 to 4 billion years ago.
Okay, so almost as soon as the Earth was cool enough to have liquid water.
Right. Huff argues that Genesis, the creation story, it isn't meant to be read as a literal step-by-step scientific manual on how creation physically happened.
So it's not a biology textbook.
No, not at all. Instead, it points to the broader idea of intelligent design. He believes in adaptation, and he believes in a historical Adam and Eve, though he admits we have absolutely no idea what they look like.
Right, of course.
But he separates the mechanisms of the universe from the meaning of the universe. The core concept here is that science is a beautiful, essential tool for explaining the how, but it fundamentally struggles to explain the why.
And the why is the part that keeps us awake at night, staring at the ceiling.
Exactly. And to illustrate this gap, he shares this wonderful parable. It's the story of Betty the botanist.
Oh, I loved this part.
It perfectly captures this disconnect between data and meaning. So imagine Betty. She's a brilliant, dedicated scientist, and she spends her entire weekend locked in the lab.
As scientists do.
Right. And her lab assistant, Jerry, has left a plant specimen on her desk. So Betty does what she does best. She analyzes it.
She goes to work.
She spends days looking at the cellular structure, the complex biology, the pharmacological implications of all its organic components. She figures out how it might be used to cure diseases.
Wow. Okay. So she extracts every single ounce of data she possibly can from this plant.
Exactly. She understands the how of the plant better than anyone on Earth. But then Monday morning rolls around.
Okay.
Jerry walks in, and Betty thanks him profusely for this fascinating botanical specimen. She lists out all her brilliant scientific findings, and Jerry just looks at her completely heartbroken.
Oh, no. Why?
Because it was February 14th.
Oh, wow.
The specimen wasn't a biological puzzle to be solved. It was a long-stem red rose. It was a love gift.
That is, wow. She had all the information, but she missed the reality entirely.
Science gave her all the data in the world. She knew more about the physical reality of that rose than anyone else alive, but she completely missed the why.
She missed the reason it was placed on her desk in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Listening to that story, it actually makes me think of an analogy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like trying to analyze a book, say the Bible or a novel or any written text.
Yeah.
You could bring in a team of chemists, right?
No.
You could have them analyze the exact chemical composition of the ink. You could have engineers tell you exactly how the wood pulp was bound together to make the paper, the precise weight, the transparency of the pages.
You could know precisely how the book was physically manufactured.
Exactly. But if you stop your investigation right there, you completely miss the fact that the ink and paper are forming words.
Yeah.
And those words are trying to communicate a profound message directly to you.
Yeah, you just can't find the message by studying the chemistry of the ink. And the source connects this back to foundational minds of modern science, like Francis Bacon or writers like C.S. Lewis. Bacon helped develop the scientific method itself. These thinkers didn't view science and faith as enemies. They actually saw the scientific method as an act of worship.
That's a really different way to look at it.
It is. They fully expected to find laws in nature physics, chemistry, biology, precisely because they believed there was a legislator who wrote those laws.
The order of the universe was evidence of a creator to them.
Yeah.
But, I have a hard time connecting those dots.
How so?
Well, it's one thing to say the grand cosmic universe has a creator, but jumping from that massive scale all the way down to my own personal value on a random Tuesday morning, that feels like a massive leap.
Yeah, it does.
How does the source bridge the gap between a cosmic legislator and the person listening right now who is literally just trying to find the motivation to get out of bed?
Well, that leap is where we hit what the source calls the so what wall.
The so what wall.
Right. It's a wall a lot of people hit when they subscribe purely to a materialistic or evolutionary worldview. The new atheist movement, for example, relies heavily on this purely biological lens. And while evolution explains the mechanics of survival wonderfully, it leaves a gaping emotional and philosophical hole. It answers how we survive, but not why we are surviving.
Because if the entire point of existence is just to have kids, so that they can have kids, so that they can have kids, eventually you have to stop and ask, to what end?
Exactly. What is the ultimate goal of all this survival? You just keep hitting that so what wall.
And for someone who is already struggling, someone who feels like they're failing at life, that worldview can feel incredibly bleak.
So bleak.
It implies that if you aren't succeeding, if you aren't thriving and reproducing and dominating your environment, you really have no true purpose.
And that brings up the exhaustion we touched on earlier. We live in a society that measures us constantly. You build a resume to prove you have value to a company.
You try to look a certain way to prove you have value to a partner.
Yeah, it's a treadmill of constantly having to justify your right to take up space. But the Christian framework Huff discusses, it offers a radically distinct answer to that modern hustle.
What's the answer?
It states that human beings are created with profound meaning and intention. It claims that you, the listener, are an image bearer of God.
An image bearer.
Yes, and this introduces a crucial distinction between two types of value, extrinsic value and intrinsic value.
Okay, let's break that down. Extrinsic value is based on what you do.
Exactly. It's what you contribute to society, how good you are at your job, how much money you make, how much scientific progress you drive. It's a value that constantly has to be earned, and worse, it can be lost.
But intrinsic value means your life has profound, unshakable meaning simply because you exist.
Yes. Your worth is baked into your very being before you ever do a single productive thing. The source points out that this deep internal sense of intrinsic value is actually why things like injustice and evil bother us so deeply.
How do you mean?
Well, if we were just highly evolved animals, the strong dominating the weak wouldn't be a tragedy. It would just be biology playing out naturally. But we feel deep in our bones that every human life is sacred and shouldn't be violated.
I am curious about how this applies to the rest of the natural world. What about the animal kingdom?
That's a great question.
Because we see incredible intelligence out there. I mean, I was watching a video recently of a chimpanzee using a touchscreen, solving complex spatial puzzles faster than a human could. Or you look at a pod of whales, the way they communicate and seem to grieve their dead. Do they have this same intrinsic spiritual soul in this framework?
The source approaches that with a really interesting nuance. It acknowledges that historically, major figures like St. Francis of Assisi and C.S. Lewis firmly believed that animals go to heaven.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and Huff even notes that if there's a new earth as promised in Scripture, animals will certainly be there. However, he argues there is a distinct spiritual component unique to humans.
Okay, so what's the difference?
Think about it this way. You could, theoretically, teach an elephant to hold a paintbrush. With enough conditioning, it might even smear paint on a canvas.
Sure.
But if that elephant somehow miraculously painted the Mona Lisa, it wouldn't understand the transcendent value, the emotion, or the historical weight of what it just created. Not in the way Leonardo da Vinci did.
Oh, I see. We have a unique capacity to understand beauty, to create art for the sake of art, and to grapple with the divine.
Exactly.
But if human beings have this profound intrinsic value, if we are these unique image bearers, that still leaves a very practical dilemma for us.
What's that?
Let's talk about the listener who believes they have value but still feels totally lost about their career path. How are they supposed to figure out what they're actually supposed to do with their life today?
Right. Well, the framework shifts the focus entirely away from a distant, cloudy future. The purpose of life in this view isn't just about sitting around in waiting rooms, trying to be good enough so you can eventually punch a ticket to a place called heaven.
Okay, so what is it?
The goal is actually to bring heaven to earth, right here, right now in your daily interactions. As Huff says, we are human beings, not human doings.
Wow. Human beings, not human doings. Just hearing that relieves so much pressure.
It does. The chief end of humanity, according to this framework, is simply to know the Creator and glorify that Creator. And that's summarized by 2 commands: loving God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and loving your neighbor as yourself.
The golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Yes, and Huff makes a brilliant observation about the golden rule. In many other philosophies or religions, a similar rule exists, but it's often framed in the negative.
Like, don't do bad things to people.
Exactly. Don't do bad things to people because you wouldn't want them to do bad things to you. It's a passive state of just avoiding harm.
Right.
But the Christian framework frames it positively. It's an active outpouring of love. It's the difference between merely deciding not to punch someone in the face and actively choosing to build a hospital to heal the sick. It requires intentional action born out of love.
I want to push back on this a little bit on behalf of our listeners.
Sure, go ahead.
Because when people are deeply struggling, when they feel totally lost in their life or their career, they usually want a grandiose sign. They want a burning bush moment, like Moses in the desert.
Yeah, we all want the clouds to part.
Right, and a booming voice to say, you should be a nurse, or you should start this specific charity. Saying, just love your neighbor sounds beautiful, but how does that help the average person who is stuck in a mind-numbing data entry job just trying to pay their rent?
It's a very common and very painful frustration. To answer that, the source brings in a beautiful perspective from Martin Luther, the German reformer.
What did he say?
Luther said that a Christian shoemaker glorifies God not by sewing little religious crosses into the shoes, but simply by making really, really good quality shoes.
Oh, so you don't need a burning bush to find your purpose. You find your purpose by doing whatever your hand finds to do right now and doing it with excellence and care.
Exactly. If you're making a shoe, make a shoe that protects someone's foot perfectly. If you're serving coffee, serve it with genuine warmth and look the person in the eye.
If you're writing a corporate report, write it honestly and clearly.
Yes. You find your mission by pouring out love and excellence in your everyday, seemingly ordinary actions. That excellence is a reflection of the Creator's image inside you.
That is so deeply grounding. It means your current life, right now, exactly as it is the perfect venue for your purpose. You do not have to wait for your circumstances to change to start living a meaningful life.
That's the beauty of it.
Now, I do need to pause and warn our listener. Take a breath with us here. We're going to shift the conversation into a heavier, much more challenging reality that the source tackles.
Yeah, we need to talk about our flaws, sin, and the concept of hell.
It's a tough pivot.
It is the darkest part of the framework, but it's entirely essential for understanding the brilliant light that comes after it. In the interview, Huff is asked a very blunt, provocative question. He's asked, Am I going to hell?
And his answer kind of stops you in your tracks.
It really does. He says, all good people go to heaven, but no one is good but God alone.
Which means, ultimately, no one is actually good enough to earn it. The standard isn't just being a nice person. The standard is perfection, and we all fail that.
Right. Now, when we hear the word hell, our minds immediately go to the Middle Ages. We think of Dante's Inferno.
Pitchforks and fire.
Exactly. We imagine literal fire, demons actively torturing people. It sounds like a medieval horror movie.
And it's an image that has caused a lot of people a tremendous amount of religious trauma.
Absolutely. The source clarifies that hell is largely misunderstood because of those cultural depictions. Rather than a torture chamber, hell is described primarily as experiencing the full, crushing weight of separation from God's goodness, grace, and mercy.
So it's a relational separation.
Yes. Huff explains it like this. If someone lives their entire life rejecting the Creator, pushing away that love and wanting nothing to do with it, God respects their autonomy.
So God doesn't force anyone into his presence against their will?
Right. Heaven is a place for people who say to God, "Thy will be done." Hell, tragically, is a place where God finally says to the person, "Thy will be done." He grants them the ultimate separation they spent their life desiring.
But, why make the language around this bad news so intensely terrifying? The scripture talks about weeping and gnashing of teeth, eternal separation, eternal fire. If the ultimate message is supposed to be one of comfort and love, why focus so heavily on the darkness?
Because in this framework, the severity of the bad news is exactly what makes the good news so profoundly, incomprehensibly good. You cannot fully understand the magnitude of a rescue if you don't understand the depth of the ocean you're drowning in.
Wow. Which brings us to the ultimate turning point of this entire worldview. How does an individual navigate from that terrifying reality, the fact that we all fail, we all fall short, and we all deserve separation, to the peace of the good news? This is where we get into the core concepts of justice, mercy, and grace.
Yes, and the source is very explicit here about how this transition happens. Salvation, being rescued from that separation, is not an incantation. It isn't a magic prayer you say just right.
Right.
And crucially, it is not earned by human effort or works. You absolutely cannot earn your way into this peace just by being charitable or nice or working really hard at being a moral person.
So if we can't earn it with our own two hands, how does it happen?
This is the very core of the Christian message. Jesus lived the perfect life that human beings were incapable of living. And then on the cross, he willingly took on that ultimate separation, that hell on our behalf. He fulfilled the divine justice.
To truly understand how this works mechanically, Huff defines three vital terms. Let's look closely at justice, mercy, and grace.
Okay, let's break those down slowly.
Yeah.
First is justice. Justice simply means getting exactly what you do deserve. If you break a law, justice is serving the sentence.
Okay.
In this framework, the justice for human rebellion and failure was fulfilled on Jesus. He took the sentence. Second is mercy. Mercy means not getting what you do deserve.
So because the sentence was paid, the punishment is removed from you. You're spared the separation you actually earned.
Yes. To put it simply, justice is the payment. Mercy is the pardon.
That makes a lot of sense.
And then we reach the third and most beautiful term, grace. Grace means getting what you absolutely don't deserve. It isn't just that your record is wiped clean and you're sent on your way. It's that you are actively brought into the family. You are adopted as a beloved child of the Creator.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me and hopefully for the listener who is feeling so worn down by life right now. Think about how this entirely flips the script on your self-worth.
Oh, completely.
In almost every other area of human existence, our value is a transaction. We work hard to earn our paycheck. We try to be charming and funny to earn our friendships. We try to be good enough so our partners won't abandon us.
It is an exhausting way to live, always waiting for the other shoe to drop if you slip up. It creates a constant hum of baseline anxiety.
But if this framework is true, your ultimate deepest value is based on grace. It isn't based on your exhausting efforts to be perfect. You are handed unimaginable worth as a completely free gift.
Which is just incredible.
For someone struggling with mental peace, with self-confidence, realizing that your deepest value is secure, unearned, and freely given, that is an incredibly solid foundation to stand on. You don't have to hustle for your right to be loved anymore.
It is the ultimate antidote to the anxiety of modern life. Whether you entirely agree with the specific theology or not, just contemplating this framework challenges the way we view ourselves. It forces you to step off that treadmill of productivity.
Yeah, you don't have to be Betty the botanist, endlessly analyzing your own life for data to prove your worth, completely missing the fact that your very existence is a gift of love.
Beautifully said.
We have covered a lot of ground today. We took our time doing it. We started by zooming out, looking at Betty the botanist, missing the meaning of the long-stem rose because she was too focused on the biology. We moved into the comforting reality of the intrinsic value of the human soul, knowing you are inherently valuable, not just biologically complex. We talked about finding a profound mission in the everyday, like the shoemaker, pouring love into a simple pair of shoes instead of waiting for a burning bush.
And finally, we waded through the heavy reality of our own failures to land on the breathtaking difference between justice, mercy, and unearned grace. We really want to leave you with a reminder. The world outside will constantly demand that you prove your worth. It will constantly measure your extrinsic value. But frameworks like this exist to remind us that there is a deeper reality running beneath all of it. You have intrinsic value just by existing. You are allowed to rest in that truth.
I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over today. We started this deep dive by talking about that feeling of treading water, of just trying to survive the dark ocean of expectations. If grace truly means receiving an unimaginable value that you absolutely didn't have to earn, how might viewing yourself through that specific lens of unearned grace change the way you treat yourself in your quietest, most difficult moments tomorrow? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Take a deep breath, go easy on yourself, and we wish you a truly peaceful day.